to Simpler. We are three pastors, husbands, and fathers on a journey to make life simpler by holding Jesus as the core for every belief and practice. This journey has shaped us to be more like Christ, freed us from the shame of failure, and encouraged us to a deeper love of our Lord and God. We invite you to join us in the discussions that have shaped and continue to shape our lives.
Have you seen the video where they drop like 15 men and 15 women on the islands, two different islands?
I've seen the memes, but I haven't seen the whole thing.
So they drop a group of men off and a group of women off, and you have to jump off the boat and swim to the island. Mm-hmm. And by the first night, sundown, the men have built a fire and they're swimming out in the ocean and stuff. And then they're coming and sitting around the fire, and one of them's already killed an iguana and they're eating and stuff like that. And the women it cuts to them hiking through the trees, and they're like, there's so many mosquitoes, and so it just talks about how it talks about how the women came upon a caiman, like a 6-foot caiman, which would have been enough to fed them all, and they could have, and they're like, let's just keep going, and the men are like hauling big chunks of meat around and all this stuff, and there is something different, right? Mm-hmm. There is something different in the mentality. I wouldn't be a coward in the woods. I've spent enough time in the woods that it wouldn't scare me. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I could make myself safe for the moment. I just don't know that I have enough skill to be successful in the first week. I would need enough food and time to
just to survive, to push through. Dude, the funny edits of that show are like had me rolling the other day, because it would like cut to the women all sad, and it cuts the guys like partying on the beach. And like, yeah.
What show is this?
I don't know what it's called. I just saw that video.
It was some sort of like a Survivor type thing. It was an experiment, social experiment.
It's like the men were on vacation. They're having the best time ever on the beach, just hanging out and playing games and cooking on a fire.
And immediately what the men did is they said, who can build fires well? Okay, I can do that. Who can build a shelter? I can do that. Who can hunt? I can do that. And they immediately assigned roles and just went to it.
You do that.
And that's what I'm saying is there are a couple of things. If somebody says, hey, this is what we need to do, I'm like, I'm your dude. You tell me and I'll get it done. I would be a good asset. I just don't know that I would be, I would love to think that I would be capable of starting it all on my own, but I don't know that I would. How about you, Pierce?
I wouldn't be good at any of it, so I'll be there. I'll help. I think I'd have a good attitude.
I think you'd have a good attitude.
Yeah. I'd help where I could, and I would want to learn where I could. But do I have any of those skills? No.
Yeah, but I think you'd learn it because, for example, like all the house stuff in your house that you've done, that you've repaired and done now in this newest house.
Well, the thing is, me and you both need Micah in these situations.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But you learned all that from Micah.
Yeah.
And you've done it enough that you're capable of doing it.
Right.
I don't actually think I have those skills. I think I'm just more driven. So like it's...
I think, though, that you have done enough, like...
I build a good structure for us to live in.
Yeah, you've done enough house repair. You've done enough remodeling. You've done enough woodwork. I think that all of those basics build the framework for you to be able to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
I don't have that. I mean, my painting does not help me in a wilderness situation.
Well, if we need to camo the
that's true.
The logic.
I mean, PETA.
Or if we need entertainment,
PETA did use cake decoration to.
I mean, you couldn't see him on the rock. You couldn't see him.
That was like the dumbest thing. Like, I am so good at cake decorating that I can make myself look like this rock. Yeah, and lay here in the dirt. Like, practically speaking, the makeup artist who did that for that scene probably spent 6 hours doing that.
Right.
And he just had enough cake icing with him to make it
to make it happen.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell y'all real quick the story about listening to that book and assuming that character's name was something else?
Yeah.
No.
I didn't read The Hunger Games. I listened to it, the audiobook, and the lady who read it was British. Mm-hmm. And so his name was PETA.
Oh.
So now say PETA and say Peter with that same accent.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
So Cammie's reading the book one day. We were on our way back from Colorado.
Peter.
And I was like, where are you in the book? And she's like, well, PETA's doing this. I was like, you mean Peter? She's like, no, PETA. I was like,
you're not British.
What do you mean PETA? She was like,
PETA.
It's PETA. I'm like, wait, it's not Peter?
That's funny.
Show me those pages.
Well, like, why would I assume, right? That's a name 100%. I've never heard.
No, you wouldn't assume.
I mean, that's
You wouldn't
just
assume.
about people
You
who
would think
hate.
it's British person
the only
saying Peter.
context is like a
Right.
group of people who hate killing animals.
Yeah. Peter Parker.
That's what I thought you meant as soon as you said, well, Peter did it with cake decorations. I was like, what did Peter do?
Peter Parker.
But that's not what we're talking about today. Brian,
No.
what are we talking about, man?
But what I do want people to do is comment below honestly if they think they could survive on their own in a wilderness setting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Do they have the skills? That's interesting. No, today we were talking about a question that we got recently that, let me see if I can find it here. I had it and then I lost it. Anyway.
Sucks to be 51.
It does. Anyway, so the question was if our life is supposed to be about Christ only, like we're supposed to live for Christ only, live for the glory of Jesus only, shouldn't everybody's only goal to be to share Christ with everybody they meet? Shouldn't everybody essentially be an evangelist? And so we appreciate the questions. We always appreciate questions that are sent to us that we can use as content for the podcast. The thing that's interesting about that is, I think three different pastors sitting here, there would be people who would say, yeah, everybody should be an evangelist.
Mhm.
Because I was kind of raised in that culture
Yeah,
where everybody's supposed to be an evangelist. And
Mhm.
so you had evangelism explosion and you had faith and you had all these different like gospel sharing things that churches would teach people through. And I went through evangelism explosion in middle school and we were taught, it feels like by every pastor, youth pastor, college pastor I ever had, it feels like we were all taught that everybody should be sharing their faith all the time, that basically everyone's an evangelist.
Mhm.
And there were a lot of years that for me personally, I felt a lot of guilt and shame over that because I'm not good at that.
Mhm.
Like, and let me say that differently because people who know me are going, well, yeah, you are. I'm really good about talking about the scripture and talking about who Jesus is with people I know, like with people who come to me and ask questions. I am not good at just starting those conversations with people cold. And you know, like I don't know who you ask. Like some people, well, let me qualify this. There are some teachers who are saying you don't need to go up to strangers, just with the friends you already have. Bring this into conversation. Totally get that. What I was taught to do is, hey, on Tuesday nights, we all meet up at the church and then we go into an apartment complex and cold knock on doors and share Christ with people because that's
Right.
what Christ wants us to do. And I always felt so awkward, but so obligated. Does that make sense?
Like it was a rule.
Yeah, like this is what you do if you're a good and faithful Christian. And so, first of all, I do think that all of us should be capable of talking about who Jesus is and what it means to put our faith in him.
Right.
Because all of us have done that at some point. All of us who are believers have put our faith in Christ.
You mean basically you need to be able to express what happened when we put our faith in Jesus?
Yeah. That Jesus died for our
So
sins.
it's not necessarily like talk about, like when we usually say share your faith, it's almost like a presentation.
Yeah.
But what you mean is like be able to articulate what happened to you when you were
Put your faith in
convinced
Jesus.
of Jesus and his work and then put your faith
Yeah.
in that.
You should be able to articulate your own story.
Yeah. To do what you do to me a lot, I don't think that's even a should. If you can't do that, I'm not sure you can say
You're
you've
probably
actually
not a
put your faith in
Christian.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's
not be able to convince somebody, just be able to say like, here's what happened at that point of faith for me.
I agree with you. That's a great point. If you're incapable of expressing, here's who Jesus is, and when I put my faith in him, then you probably haven't put your faith in him.
Right.
That is something that I think is just written into the DNA of a believer.
Mm-hmm.
That's not evangelism
Right.
from a biblical perspective.
That's what I was going to say. Like, side note real quick. I also don't think when you express that, you need to be able to articulate it in a way that convinces people.
No.
Like, that's
Right.
not, we're not saying like in a
No.
convincing way. It's just like, here's
This
what
is what happened to me.
Or here's what I believe about Jesus.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that might be 2 or 3 sentences and you're done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I believe that Jesus is the savior of the world. I put my faith in him.
Right.
Like, now, is everyone obligated to do that? I don't think so.
Before you go that way.
Yeah.
Can we
Please.
create this distinction real quick between like a biblical definition of an evangelist.
Yes.
Or evangelism. And then I think there's another category that you're leaning into.
Okay.
But I think it'd be helpful to like create some categories first.
Yeah. So the evangelion, which gets a different form of that Greek word. Evangelion means good news. And I don't know Greek, but the ending changes, and then it makes it the person who brings the good news. So there is the good message, and then there is the person who proclaims the good message, but they're both out of the root evangelion. So there's the good news, and then there's the proclaimer of the good news. And tell me if I'm getting ahead of where you want me to be, because I'm happy to walk through it in an orderly fashion.
Mm-hmm.
But I was taught that every Christian, how do I say this, should be an active proclaimer of the good news, that it should be like your sole aim.
You mean like a verbal conversation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that every believer should actively spread and share the good news of Jesus.
That's a good way to say it, because I think that's what I heard growing up was like that it was this obligation to make sure that everybody that you come in contact with has verbally or you've shared the message of Jesus with.
Right. And so that's kind of where the question goes, because the question was like, if Christ is the most important thing, which he is, then if Christ is the most important thing, then why isn't everybody?
That the question's not okay.
Okay, go.
Because it assumes some premises. It assumes some things to be true. So why is it that if the aim of our life is the glory of Jesus, why then does it, like, there's no explanation of why the next statement is everybody should be sharing, should be an evangelist. Like those, there's no connection there in terms of like why the second part is true because the first one's true. Right. But from a biblical perspective, I don't think that you see that, which is kind of what you're like teetering around. Yeah. There are, so back to the question. So
sorry, here's the question. Yeah. Found it finally. I am 51 and technology is crazy. If our goal is to live for Christ only, should we all be missionaries and only be sharing the gospel? Is sharing the gospel our primary mission as a believer?
Got it. Okay. So scratch what I just said because they didn't phrase it in that way. Got it. So they're actually asking in a question. No.
Yeah. I mean, agreed, right? So should we all
Biblically, no.
Yeah. Not everybody goes. What people do is, and we've talked about this, so we don't need to rehash the entire thing, but I think it merits 5 minutes. What people do is they look at the very end of Matthew 28 and they say, well, the Great Commission is that everybody should go. Right. And then other people who have stayed in the same city they've lived in their whole lives say, well, what it actually means is as you are going, and technically that is what it means in the Greek, as you are going, do these things. So it's not a command to go. It's just as you're doing life, do these things. But the problem is that, and that's frequently called the Great Commission. Mm-hmm. It was popularized as being called the Great Commission by guys like Hudson Taylor in the 1800s. It was first alluded to being the Great Commission in the 1600s. But 1600 years of Christian faith, no one called it the Great Commission. Mm-hmm. And then it's only been popularized as the Great Commission for the last 200 years and only been in our Bible as a heading for the Great Commission less than 100 years. Mm-hmm. And so, but all these people, I'm less than 100 years old. You guys are. So we've all grown up hearing this called the Great Commission. Right. And everybody says, oh, yeah, everybody needs to go. This was literally a statement that Jesus made to the 11. Mm-hmm. This was a statement that he made to the 11 somewhere between day 11 after his resurrection and day 40 after his resurrection. You can't narrow it down more than that, but it has to be at least 11 days after his resurrection. There's a reason for that, but we can talk about that another time. So he's talking to the 11 on the mountain in Galilee, and he's expressing to them what he wants them to do. And then they fulfill that in the book of Acts. These 11 guys go and proclaim the gospel. But Paul doesn't ever say that. Paul wrote 2/3 of the New Testament. He doesn't tell the people in Ephesus, you need to leave Ephesus and go. Mm-hmm. He doesn't tell the people in Thessalonica, you need to leave Thessalonica and go. What he does say is, your faith is heard about all over the world. He says that to the Thessalonians. Like, everywhere that people talk about you, they talk about your impeccable faith. Mm-hmm. These are people who are living for the glory of God, which is, because this person says, is sharing the gospel our primary mission as believers? No, our primary mission as believers, I think, is to live for the glory of God. Mm-hmm. Some people are, evangelion. Some people are the people who's, so you get to Ephesians 4. We've come to this text a lot lately, it feels like in podcasts, but it's something that has been on my heart more and more. But in Ephesians 4, talking about those gifts that are given to the church, it says that some are prophets, some are evangelists, that's the sharers of the good news, some are apostles, and some are pastors and teachers. And so some are the sharers of the good news.
Yeah.
Some are prophets. And then even when you get into 1 Corinthians 12, talking about the spiritual gifts, some have the gift of tongues. Some have the gift of mercy. There are people who share Christ with such ease and eloquence. It oozes out of them in everything that they do. These are people who I think are gifted to the church as evangelion, the people who are the proclaimers of the good news. It's natural for them.
Yeah.
All of us as believers, as we've already said, are capable of sharing what we believe about Jesus and when we came to faith.
I think, all right, backing up a little bit.
Okay.
I'm still confused about the premise that I'm not confused. I'm wondering why we have that even as a premise. So the question even was asked from the perspective that there's an implication that there's a premise that is the case, right?
Right, that we should all be missionaries, only be sharing the gospel.
I think back to your point about the Great Commission, there's a few other passages I can think of that kind of give this implication that people could take that text and go, I think the implication of this text is that everybody is always sharing the gospel. I think that teaching, to your point, since probably the Great Commission was called the Great Commission, has become culturally normal for us as Western Christians. And so I think you're right. What you said earlier, there is this almost sense of like, I'm a terrible person if I'm not out sharing my faith.
Yeah.
Or if I have a bunch of people at work that I've never talked to about Jesus.
Yeah.
So can I remedy that real quick?
Yep. And then we'll be done.
First of all, maybe.
Yeah.
First of all, I'd be interested in the conversation if someone wants to have it, but like to your point about Matthew 28, Jesus is instructing his disciples to go do this thing. Paul says in Corinthians, speaking of, who is it, him, Silas?
2 Corinthians, he's talking about himself and Silas and Timothy probably.
Yeah. We are the aroma of Christ to those who are being saved. We're the aroma of life to those who are perishing.
We are the ambassadors.
We're the ambassadors. So like, you can't take the we and say that's us because he's very specific of who he's talking about there, right? There's a few other passages. Let me go on the flip side.
The people use Luke 5 all the time. I'm going to make you fishers of men.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, everybody should be fishers of men.
I think the Gospels is a difficult place to make a general statement for Christians because Jesus is being very specific there. So that being said, I think there are passages where you could take an implication from the text that is for everybody. Then I would say is not. Now, having said that, I don't think it's a terrible idea. So like, I think what I mean is, if you're the as you were going thought from what we call from Matthew 20, I'll just say that. I don't think it's a terrible idea at the workplace being the person that everybody knows is like, man, this dude follows Jesus.
Yeah.
And as conversations come up, you're like, dude, can I tell you about what Jesus has done for my life? I think that's a phenomenal idea.
And I think would be natural to a believer.
Yes. Yeah, because your life has been made new, because you used to be dead and now you're alive. I like to think about it like this. If every time in my life I can think of that something phenomenal has happened, even something like the birth of my kids, I can't wait to show people pictures.
Right.
So it's concerning for me when someone's like, on the flip side of everybody should be an evangelist, I don't want to talk about Jesus at all. It's concerning for me.
Agreed.
Because it almost makes me feel like you don't have life. Like something remarkable has not happened in your life because of Jesus. So that's on the flip side is concerning for me. Now, both those thoughts aside, I don't think you can make a biblical case that it is a responsibility of every single believer to be someone who's called an evangelist. It is an outrageous thought. In Acts, I think I forget where Paul, I think somebody stays with Philip the evangelist, who I don't know who it is.
Tell me the rest of the story and then we'll know.
I don't know where it is. Anyways.
Yeah.
But he's mentioned as Philip the evangelist. I mean, is it all Philips that are believers that are evangelists? Like, why is he called Philip the evangelist if it's everybody's responsibility to be an evangelist,
right?
Like
Acts 21, 22.
Something like that. All right. So, it seems like there's a specific role of someone that is taking on the role of an evangelist in the same way, to your point, that there are specific people who are apostles and prophets, evangelists, and then pastor teachers. Paul says to Timothy, he says, do the work of an evangelist. This is to Timothy, right? This is a very specific role. In the same way Paul and Silas and Timothy were doing that work when he says in 2 Corinthians, we are the aroma of Christ. We are the ambassadors of Christ. So there's I would say, contrary to what us three grew up believing, there's a specific role, we'll call it that, of an evangelist.
Yes. Right.
That is not for everybody.
Correct. There are people who are gifted that way.
Here's where the conversation gets dumb. Some people hear that and go, so you're saying we shouldn't talk about Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's not what I said. What I said was there's a specific role. The reason people feel that way is because in their mind, the only way to share Jesus is if you're an evangelist.
Right.
And that is where I'd like to go to, because I think that's a dumb perspective.
Yeah.
It is, to your point earlier, Ryan, there's someone who has the gifting, the calling, the equipping to be an evangelist. So you, Ryan, when you don't teach for a few weeks, it's so funny because you come back and you are chatty Cathy, you're like ready to all this stuff's in your head. It's like you're just like, I gotta teach, right?
It's like bubbling over.
That's exactly what you're talking about in the context of a teacher. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing for an evangelist. It's not like they're deciding today, I'm going to start talking about Jesus. No. It's like who they are, right?
Yeah, you're not having to contain it.
No, you can't contain it.
It's Paul saying in 1 Corinthians 9, woe is me if I do not preach the gospel of Christ. Like I'm under compulsion.
He can't stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can't stop.
And an evangelist, one gifted that way, is the same way.
Exactly the same way. Yep. So that being a role, I think we need to understand that biblically. There's the role of an evangelist.
Very important. Yeah.
That is not the role for everybody.
Right.
Now, having said that, there are passages.
There's a role for a teacher. There's a role for a shepherd. Right.
Having said that, I think the confusion is that people are going to assume then that means nobody talks about Jesus if you're not an evangelist.
Isn't it funny that people go to the absolute opposite extreme?
The only reason you would have that is if in your mind the only way to share Jesus is an evangelist, as an evangelist.
Yeah.
And that's what you've been taught, is that we're all, because people have been taught for their entire life, everybody's an evangelist. And so if someone like us says not everybody's an evangelist, you're like, oh, I don't talk about Jesus.
The Thessalonians weren't evangelists. The Thessalonians were living, they're one of the few groups of people that Paul commends for their faith. Like he like shames a lot of people, but he's commending them for their faith. Right. The Thessalonians were so grounded in their faith, people are hearing about it. But they're not out there being evangelists. They're just living for the glory of God.
Yeah. Philippians 2, that you may be blameless and innocent children of God without blemish in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world.
Right.
That they're just living amongst the crooked generation and twisted generation. And because they are followers of Jesus, because they have new life, because they have the Spirit,
right?
I'm adding all these things in, but they shine as lights in the world.
Yeah, and so when you have a job that's a secular job and you're living for Christ, your coworkers know that something's different about you because there's a way that you're conducting yourself that's different. But also, when your coworker comes to you and they've just lost a baby or they're going through a divorce or whatever, and your instinct is to be like, hey, how can I serve you? How can I pray for you? Like, that's not evangelism. That's just you, like.
Okay, wait. I think that can happen. But what you just said, I think, is potentially creating another,
standard.
Yep.
Yeah,
because,
we're not trying to.
No. Because if I don't ask someone, how can I pray for you? How can I care for you? That doesn't mean I'm not shining as a light, right? That's how, to be fair, that's how Ryan Dalgliesh would do it. And it's a phenomenal way for Ryan to do it. Not everybody's going to respond that way, right?
No, absolutely not.
I think the implication of shine as lights in the world is not based on what you do, but who you are.
I would agree with that. Yeah. And so let me qualify it. There will be things. So I'll give you a great example. Christy Dyer, so hospitable. I mean, she will do everything in her power to make people feel loved and welcome and comfortable. I am not wired that way. Like, I am happy to give you my time, but I'm going to give you my time at lunch, where when lunch is over, I can be like, hey, this was great. And I'm happy to do this with you again next week. But I'm very private. Like, people don't think that about me, but I'm very private. I'm very protective of my space, my quiet. Like, I like to be isolated to a degree. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So Christy is not. She is so bubbly and so personable, and I'm not. And so Christy is living for Christ and I'm living for Christ, and we each have ways that works out in us naturally. And so it's not that you're trying to be an evangelist. It's not even that you're required to be an evangelist. It's that if you, as Micah's saying, if you are in Christ, there is a way that your life is conducted that has been shaped by who God is in you. And that thing is the light in your world.
I'm not sure. Because you said there's a way that your life is conducted and that's the light in the world. I think that the light in the world is who you are, not how you conduct your life.
Okay, but
I'm getting to where you're at. I don't think you disagree with me. I think that I'm just trying to set a premise because I think what you're actually saying is still maybe revealing that's like still in you a little bit. Like the perspective of like our childhood.
Yeah, probably.
Us shining as lights in the world is not, I think, okay, let me say it this way because people are going to get confused before I go to the premise. I think how you conduct your life is a sign of who you are.
Agreed.
Right? That's what you're trying to say, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you're trying to get to.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get people to, I don't need to fix it. I think I need to like give the premise of where you were trying.
Yeah, because it cannot be works-based.
Because someone who
can't be.
Because I was going to say is someone who does not know Jesus could be just as hospitable as Christy.
Right. Yeah. Agreed.
Right? They could do all the same things,
Sure.
but it doesn't have anything to do with Jesus.
Sure.
Right? So it cannot be conduct-based.
Right.
Conduct is a sign of who you are. I think the conduct is a glimpse into the character that you are now because of Jesus, or the person you are because of Jesus. So I think you as a believer now are the light. And because you are a believer, because you've been made new and your life is lived for the glory of Jesus, that affects your conduct, right? So for example, Pierce, on the way over here, you were sharing with us this video you saw where somebody said, if you're a Christian, you can't. What was it?
You can't. They were at a table and they didn't have salt and pepper, and they noticed there was some by the bar, but he looked at his wife and he's like, well, we can't go get that one because it's by the bar, and we don't want people to think that we're
at the bar
getting drinks.
Yeah.
So we got to ask for salt. We can't go get that one.
So they set up a moral boundary, and in their mind, this is a great example of what I'm saying. In their mind, that would be a conduct that would
misrepresents.
Yes. Yeah. And they've created a standard that is not a standard
biblical
of who you are, right?
Yeah.
So whether they go get the salt shaker and the pepper shaker from the bar or not, in their mind, they're saying we would not be a good representation of Jesus if we did that. That is not a true statement biblically. No. That is a cultural moral you've set up, right?
Right.
So if the conduct is the means by which we share the gospel, then Mormons and Muslims can do a better job than we can.
Sure.
So that's my point, is it cannot be the conduct is out of the heart to glorify Jesus, but that's not what makes you a representation of Jesus.
Yeah, fair.
It is your life in Christ, literally just who you are, that does that. And then I think where you were going is I think you get better and better as you continue to grow spiritually and mature in wisdom of how to interact with people. Like someone, I've shared this story a lot of times on here, but like someone would have said to you, it was irresponsible in terms of representing Jesus for you to be at a casino when you were like doing ministry with the lady in between her shifts, right?
It's so funny because I don't remember that. You bring that up periodically, but I don't remember it.
It's locked in my brain because it's epic, right? Because it in my mind, it flies in the face of all the people who want to make a case for cultural.
You nodded.
Moral.
You remember that too?
I told you about it.
It was because it was off to the side of the tables, right?
It was in between the 3-card poker and the crappy automatic shuffle blackjack table.
Gotcha.
That's right. And you weren't behind the like she came out to talk to him.
No, it was just like she was standing at the rope and he was standing on the other side of the rope.
I got you. Yeah.
Pit boss or something.
No, you weren't there.
Okay, I remember having a conversation with somebody. Maybe I just attributed that story to that.
You weren't there.
Oh, okay.
Making some money.
I didn't have any money, so I was getting drinks to the room and walking back and forth.
Anyway, your point. So, people would say that my conduct by being in the casino was not a good example of Christ.
Yeah, and now here you are, someone that is representing Jesus, sharing Jesus with the lady who probably doesn't even know Jesus. And I used to say this in disc golf because someone told me when I first started playing disc golf, you shouldn't hang out with those people. And I was like, who's going to tell them about Jesus? You?
Yeah.
Like, anyways, I'm not getting fired up about that. But if we say conduct is the means by which the gospel is shared, I think that it gets a little hazy because I don't think it's a completely wrong statement, but I think it cannot be based on the conduct. I think the conduct is a sign of who you are, and you get better and better as you grow in maturity and wisdom at that conduct. So when you said earlier, like, how can I, in a situation with a worker, like, how can I pray for you? How can I help you here? That's a phenomenal way to have a gospel conversation with somebody.
Sure.
That's a wise, shrewd way to bring
If
yourself
you're
into
wired that
someone's
way.
life. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. But that's not what makes you shine as lights in the world. It's
No,
not your
agreed.
conduct. It is who you are.
Yeah. So let's flesh that out a little bit more, because I do think it's a really key point, because, and we're talking about this next week, super important, that we are not people of the law, we're people of the gospel.
Right.
I had lunch with a gentleman a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about raising his kids, and he was just wanting some help on how to parent them. And a lot of the things that he was doing already were really good. And I said, yeah. And I said, but everything you just told me, to your point, Micah, I said, everything you just told me, somebody who doesn't know Jesus could do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're providing for your kids, you're making sure they have what they need for school, you're doing this, you're giving them some responsibilities, you're helping them develop their skills and grow as people, and but somebody who doesn't know Jesus could do that.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is when you say, listen, we're a household that follows Christ, and I'm serving you, I'm doing this because Christ is a servant to me, and he's called us to be servants. It's funny that the same action can be motivated by law, or it can be motivated by the gospel.
Yep.
And so I've known husbands who will insist, well, man, I took my wife out on a date for her birthday. I buy her flowers every Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, yeah, people who don't know Jesus can do that. But a man who loves his wife through the lens of the gospel, through the lens of Christ, might also take her to dinner for her birthday and buy her flowers every Friday. It's not the action itself.
Mm-hmm.
What shapes, you can watch two different people suffer well, and one can be a non-believer and one can be a believer, and the non-believer can be like, bad things happen, and the believer can be, my confidence is in God. But again, it's not the action, it's the core of it. It's I don't know how to say that better, but
like in that situation, I think that someone who's not a believer can't have actual hope in Jesus.
Nope.
So the hope of eternity is not what drives their dealing with the suffering.
Right.
So that's different for us, which I think is probably going to look different.
Sure.
Even in a minute way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that back to the beginning of the conversation, the hard part for a lot of our culture now is that we were convinced a long time ago that it is everybody's responsibility to do the role of evangelist.
Mm-hmm. To be a
think
missionary.
All we're trying to say is there's a distinction in the scripture between the role of an evangelist and people who are not evangelists.
Yeah.
But the people who are not evangelists, that doesn't mean that you're not someone who talks about your faith.
Right.
Because the reality is that you have been brought from death to life.
Right.
And you are someone who shines as a light in the world. You are someone who, I think when Paul says things like, live lives worthy of the calling you've received, there's this sense of lifting up Jesus in your life.
Sure.
And here's my question. If Jesus is lifted up in my life, how does that not have an impact on the people around me?
Sure.
So I think maybe let's wipe the slate clean from what we grew up hearing.
Yeah.
And say, let's set some thoughts together. One,
well, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You hold on to that? Mm-hmm. Thinking through what you're saying here, and I like it a lot, do you feel that if you spend enough time with somebody, you understand their motivation for living, Christian or not?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you're around someone enough, you understand, you start to, the way we say it is, now I know what makes them tick.
Mm,
right? So for some people, you spend enough time with them, you're like, they're in this for the paycheck. That's why they're here.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about anybody they're working with. They don't care about where the job goes. It's a good paycheck. They're here for the paycheck. They're here because they want the new truck. They want the new house, whatever, right? You spend enough time with someone and eventually you know what makes them tick.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, shoot it down, Micah, if you need to. But I feel like if you're a believer, just by virtue of you are now light, you are now new, people being around you long enough, they're going to know what makes you tick. And what makes the believer tick is Christ, the gospel.
Yes.
This is the motivation for everything I do. It's impossible for you to be a believer grounded in the things of God and not have everything you do eventually be shaped by that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure.
Which means that the people you're working with and the people that are around you are like, well, why don't you do that? it was you in Arizona, right?
Yeah.
When you were staying with like 8 other guys.
It's like almost midnight. We got an early tea time, and one of my buddies, there's like a million of us in this hotel room because everybody's poor. And, but this, like, it's almost midnight. I'm trying to go to bed, and this dude's like, "Hey, dude, why don't you ever go to the strip club with us?"
Right.
It's like, bro, it's like almost midnight. This is not a short conversation.
Well, and he's asking that question like because he's seen something different in you.
Yep.
Well, go to another event that you had where a guy came up to you and said, "Hey, I played with a guy today. He's a Mormon. You guys believe the same thing," and you went off because that's a false Jesus. And you're like, "No, we don't believe the same thing." And in that moment, people see what makes you tick.
Yep. I had more gospel conversations that night than I have in probably any other disc golf event.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and it's interesting because like
everybody wanted to know like why
you got so fired up.
Yeah, because they hadn't seen that.
Right.
They
and you're like, because that's a
me.
false gospel. Yeah. That's false salvation. And so if
Side note, I had more gospel conversations because I sat around a table with them when they were drinking.
Yeah. After the day was over.
With them and they wanted to know, and I shared the gospel with every single one of those people.
Sure. And it's one of those things though that it wasn't an environment that you fabricated. It was an environment that you were able to step into when that moment arrived, because your life is directed by Christ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like I kind of want to tell someone who says I don't ever want to talk about Jesus, or like in their mind they say that. Here's what I want to say: like live your life for the glory of Jesus and just see what happens.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen if you're actually doing that is people are going to notice.
Yeah.
People are going to ask questions. You're going to be forced into situations where people are like, wait, there's something different about you. I want to know, what is it that's different about you? And you're like, I can't talk about it.
I can't talk about
it. I was sworn to secrecy. Yeah.
We don't talk about Fight Club.
That's right.
We don't talk about Bruno.
There you go.
There you go.
That's more Pierce's world.
It is, yep.
Yeah. That was a catchy tune.
It was.
I think there's a tension that was created, which I think is implied in the question, Ryan, that was sent to you. This tension that's created of like, if you're going to share the gospel, you are an evangelist or you're a missionary.
Right.
And side note, there are people with the role of an evangelist.
Absolutely.
There are people who function as, I'm not going to call it a role, but function as missionaries.
Right.
I think it's more of a term describing what they're doing. Most of these people are likely evangelists. I think some of them are apostles, but like I think there's people functioning in that job, if you will, who we need to come behind and say, how can we
facilitate that for you,
make it better? Yeah. How can we make this easier? So you want to see the gospel spread around the world, but you feel the tension of like, I don't feel like that's me that's going to be the evangelist. Then how can you support someone who is doing that? How can you support like prayer financially,
right?
Logistically, like how can you jump on board with someone who is? Because I think someone with a heart for the glory of Jesus says, I want the world to hear this message.
Yeah.
And that tension that we felt as we've gone, I don't feel like that's me.
Yeah.
Fine. It's not you that has the role, that has the calling, has the gifting to do that. But be part of the
people who are.
Yeah. So I don't know why the tension is weird to me. Like someone created the tension because it's a rule they created a long time ago that says you have to be an evangelist if you're a Christian, which is just a dumb perspective.
Yeah.
Because what's not actually what they meant. I can almost guarantee every person who told us that growing up, that's not what they meant. What they meant was we should all be gospel proclaimers.
Yeah.
But they said evangelists because they're ignorant of what the scripture says in terms of the roles. And I don't have a problem saying, live your life for the glory of Jesus.
Right.
And that will be a way that proclaims the gospel. Oh, that same event where I got in a heated debate with the dude who was saying Mormons believe in the same Jesus we do. I was about to kill that dude. The other guy that was with me, so the guy that said that to me was on a different team. And there was a guy on his team that was a Mormon, and their team's name was Disciples in Seeking Christ. It was DISC, like this weird acronym. So that's what pissed me off, is they were proclaiming themselves to be Christians, and then he's saying, no, Mormons believe the same thing we do. And my buddy who's on my team is like, oh, I didn't know that. And so it's us three talking, and I'm like, they don't believe in the same Jesus. And that dude's like, yes, they do. And it was on.
Yeah,
like,
for sure, because it's a false gospel.
I go from 0 to a bazillion in less than a second. Yeah. And my buddy goes, after it was over, my buddy goes, whoa. He goes, I thought I was about to have to step between you two. And I was like, you wouldn't have been able to. Like, and he was a big dude. Yeah. And so then this guy's like, what was that? He was like, I've never seen that before. He was like, why were you so fired up about that? And then he's telling everybody else we're staying at the same house together about it. And so like everybody's like this Micah we know who's like a Christian dude. All of a sudden he's about to like,
fire.
So they're all having a glass of wine at night I don't really drink wine. So anyways, but they want to know like what's the difference? So I shared Christ with them. So that same event, I'm playing a disc golf round with another guy, and we get to like hole 17, and he leans over to me and he goes, "Hey, dude, are you a Christian?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "I knew it." He goes, "There's just something." He was, "There's something different about you." He probably has had experiences with Christians, right?
Yeah.
He didn't say, "I just noticed you haven't cussed the whole time."
Yeah.
He didn't say you haven't been drinking. He didn't say you haven't been smoking weed. Like he didn't say any of those things. He was just like, there's something different about you, right? It wasn't a conduct-based comment. No. It was something other than that. That's what I'm trying to get to. I think when we actually have a heart to glorify Jesus with our life, I don't think you have to like fabricate situations where you're sharing the gospel. I think that there will be these conversations that arise because you're living for the glory of Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would even go, this is my opinion, I would go as far to say, if you're not having gospel conversations ever, you're probably not living with a heart to glorify Jesus because nobody's noticing.
Sure. Yeah. And it really is interesting when you meet somebody, like I forget where I was, maybe in San Antonio with Michelle and the boys, I forget, but there was somebody that we were in the La Cantera in the shops, and somebody walked past me. There was something about them, and like, you know, you just kind of nod at people, you say hello,
you know,
and he was, the way he said, "Hey man," like there was just something like just jovial and friendly. And so I stopped him and we talked for a few minutes, and like he knew the Lord.
Yep.
And there was just something different
it's a spirit.
in the way, I remember what it was. And he's a photographer. And we started talking and stuff about art and different things. His photography, started following him on Instagram. He was sitting, it was just Michelle and me at this one. He was sitting waiting for his wife and kids to come out of a store. And we went down and got our cheesecake, and we were coming back the other way, about to pass him again. And now he's with his wife and his kids. And he sees me and he goes, "It's Ryan, my good friend Ryan." And he goes, "Kids, meet Ryan." And like, he's
That's
like,
funny.
and like, there was just something, you know, that like was different right away. And when he told me his photography name on Instagram, because I had said something about being a pastor, and he told me his photography name, and I was like, "Oh, the first man in the Bible filled with the Holy Spirit, the guy who built the tent of meeting," because it's like Bazil photography or whatever, right? And so that's just a random name. You don't just pick that name, you know? Right. And so like, but here's this dude that we talked for a total of like 7 minutes, one random day at the shops, and like, but you just knew, like you knew that there was something different about this guy, and it's and here's the other thing that I think. So we have about 1 million people in our church having babies right now.
Yeah, so many babies.
And I always ask them, I say, "Look," I said, "is it okay if I give you unsolicited advice?" Because I know a lot of new parents are getting unsolicited advice. I said, I have 2 pieces of unsolicited advice, if that's okay. And they said, "Sure." So the first one is, you're going to be tired, and it's okay. So it's okay if you don't make it out of your pajamas one day, and it's okay if you take a nap when the baby takes a nap, and it's okay if it's okay. You're going to be fine.
Are you talking to the dads here?
Usually the moms, but it's okay, right? Like people have all this idea of like, "Oh, I got to keep doing everything I was doing before." How?
Right.
Like you're not sleeping, you know, like your life is turned upside down. And so the other piece of advice isn't relevant, so it doesn't matter. So
cliffhanger.
Yeah. And so I'll tell people that, and you can kind of like see the weight come off. They'll be like, "Oh, okay, thank you." You know, you give them permission. And it's the same thing for me when I had January 2005, I had a seizure while preaching down in Houston. And then a week later had a seizure while doing some marriage counseling in San Antonio. I'd had 2 seizures in the space of a week. Hadn't had seizures since I was 7. Saw Dr. Heimbecker, and they ran some tests, and he just said, "Listen," he said, you're doing too much. Your body's worn out. And with your seizure history, when your body gets fatigued, this is a way that your body will react. And so slow down, sleep in, take a nap. And honestly, it was the first time I felt like I had permission to do that.
Right.
Because I was trying to keep up with everybody else who are keeping these crazy paces. And I just can't. Like my body, when it shuts down, it shuts down. And so here's a doctor giving me permission to do that. And so all that to say, I think that some people need to hear, like, live for Christ in your home.
Mm-hmm.
Like just love your family with the love of Jesus. Like people keep thinking, oh, you got to go somewhere and do something. No, like if Christians would just in their home represent Christ,
right, the
Christian world would be different completely.
Absolutely.
Like just love the people that you share the house with, right? Like if you don't go beyond your own home and you just will love the people that share that roof with you, what a change would happen in our churches. Like, and everybody's thinking like, I got to go, I got to do something. No, like be a husband who loves his wife and his kids with the love of Christ. Be a wife who loves the husband and kids. Like, you know what I mean? Like just it's okay to be, because I've had people say, like, man, I just feel like I've got to go somewhere. Like where I've got to, like, no, just be home and love Jesus.
Right.
It's okay to just be home and be people who love Jesus. And it is interesting, like, because we do compare ourselves to people a lot. And Micah and Pierce, you both are going to have cookouts and you're going to have dinners at your house and you're going to invite people over. And I'm probably not, because I have to have my space. I have to have, for me, like it's.
Which is part of the reason though that makes you a good teacher. You know what I mean? Like
I don't.
That like you intentionally spend that amount of time on like you value the time on your own. So like when you say you're spending time on your own, what did you say earlier? Like I like to be isolated or something like that. This isn't you sleeping.
No.
And even if you are sleeping, it's because
So
it's
I don't
the
have a
one
seizure.
moment your brain has turned off, or you don't sleep because your brain hasn't turned off, right? So like, I think there's an aspect of that too where it works for you being a really good teacher, is because that value of isolated time for you allows you to have some intense study that is not normal.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, so like there's some value in that as well. I think that kind of what you're expressing is this is probably what you're getting to. Someone's going to look at you maybe from the old premise of everybody's an evangelist and go, Ryan, you suck.
Or I'm not as hospitable as you guys or as Christy or
I mean, like even James and I were hanging out. We've been we've been doing some discipleship on Tuesdays, but instead of just, we used to go to Rosa's and he started playing golf recently. So we've been going to Quicksand and hit balls, and then we'll go into the clubhouse and eat breakfast. So it's just a different time. Anyways, but he's watching me on the golf course and I'm like talking to everybody. And he was like, dude, how do you do that? Like you just, I don't even know a guy and I'm like talking to him.
Sure.
That is not a rule for everybody.
Sure.
So I was telling him, like, there is, in the same way you teach, like that, I would say that is probably more my strength. Like I can go into almost any environment anywhere and be fine. Like it doesn't bother me.
I can't.
Unless everybody's dancing. It's really fun. Not my forte, right? I'm out. I'm going to go be isolated. We'll see you guys later. But like, it doesn't bother me. So like the chances of me, let's say us three go into an environment with a whole lot of people, the chances of me having a gospel conversation with someone in that environment is like a bazillion times more than Ryan.
And just random environment?
Just a random group of people.
Oh, heck yeah.
I'll probably know 50 people by the end of the night.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
And I will sit in the corner and talk to the one person
right.
that's wearing Converse. I'm like, oh, we have Converse in common.
So
there's my friend.
But, okay, that's a great point though, because my guess is here's what's great about you, Pierce. You're probably more like me than Ryan. You're
more social.
To go in.
I think that's evident in the way you guys both do life. Y'all are way more social.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you used to be the lead singer of a metal band.
Right, so you got to go meet people at bars, you know?
That's how you meet people right there. But like, you're going to have a conversation with that one person. The photographer you meet at the shops at La Cantera, the one dude with Converse you're going to have a very intentional conversation because that's your comfort zone. So I think that what we grew up hearing is get outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I really don't think that's the,
no,
what's funny?
Terrible biblical advice.
Okay, even in the, I am not advocating now for Matthew 28 to be for everybody. But I like, even in the idea that people teach of as you were going, that's exactly what you're talking about. What we're talking about right here, which I think is the implication of Jesus. What he's saying is like, hey, continue the journey that I've kind of started with you. Like you continue. He said to them, like, you're going to do greater things than me.
Right.
Not that you're greater than me, but you're going to go take this ministry out beyond Israel now and go on. So like, I think that there's this sense of like, be who you are.
Sure.
Be like, you're isolated, but it's not like you don't ever see anybody. Right.
Yeah.
Your life is lived for the glory of Jesus wherever you're at. So you're talking to one random dude with Converse in a social environment. You're going to have an intentional conversation with that person because you're Ryan.
And because I'm more wired as a teacher and I'm not good at initiating things cold. Like I get a lot of text, a lot of phone calls from people who know me in the realm of being a teacher. Like I'm fielding those phone calls and texts every day and making myself available for those people because it is what I enjoy doing. It's natural for me to teach. So when somebody goes, hey, I have a Bible question, or hey, I have this thought, I'm like, yeah, let's talk about it. But I am not good at, I don't like being at parties. I don't like crowds of people. I'm uncomfortable there. And so, yeah, it's just we don't all fit in the same box, you know? And it's weird that so much of church ministry has tried to make everybody be the same. Instead of what are you good at? Like I still think back, it's one of my favorite stories to share. I think back to one of the last camps I did maybe 9 years ago. And I was doing a Q&A with about 30 of the high school kids during rec time. And there was this young man sitting to my right. We're in East Texas. We couldn't have been more East Texas. And there's this young man to my right who's in board shorts, a tank top, wearing a puka shell necklace, and has shoulder-length blonde hair. Looks like he's straight off the beach, right? In East Texas. And we're talking, and he goes, I forget how it came up, but he said, I think that I'm supposed to be a missionary, I guess, or a preacher. And I said, why? And he goes, man, I really love Jesus. I was like, that's amazing. I was like, but why do you have to be a missionary or a preacher? And he goes, I really love Jesus. Like, isn't that what you do? And I'm like, not necessarily. And I was like, you really love Jesus and you live for Jesus. Right. I said, what would you do? And he goes, I want to build my own surfboards and surf. And I was like, yeah, that fits. Like, and I said, okay, I don't know anything about that world. I said, but I do know that there are people, so I guess I know something. There are people who make them by hand still. Like you can, like there are people who are specialized. I was like, do those people still exist as far as you're aware of? He goes, yeah, there's some really awesome ones. I was like, is it possible to go and get a job with those guys? Is that even something that could happen? Like you could apprentice under somebody and learn? And he goes, yeah. I was like, so you're learning to make your own surfboards and then you're out in the water surfing and stuff? And he goes, yeah, it's possible. I was like, so 10 years down the road, now you're building your own surfboards. You have your own brand. Like, is that possible? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, now look at you and look at me. Those surfers need Jesus. Which one of us stands a better chance? And he laughed. And I was like, exactly. I was like, look at me. I'm pasty white, scrawny, dude. Like you're the guy.
Wait, are all surfers not white?
and I was like, no, they're like bronze because they're out in the sun all the time.
You don't know what they are.
But I was just saying, like, listen, man, what you do is you go build the best surfboards in the world and you surf with these guys and you just hang out with them. And you, being a man who loves Jesus, will have these opportunities that I will never have. And he goes, oh, that's cool. And he was about to be a senior. And I think about that young man a lot. Like, I don't know where he's ended up 8, 9 years ago now, but like, I would love to think that he's out there somewhere building boards and loving Jesus. Right. Because if he's in Hawaii, if he's in California, if he's in Florida and he's building boards, he's in a world that I will never touch. And he loves Jesus. Right. Just go and be in that world and love Jesus. Like, what an amazing thing.
I don't hate the idea. This is my personal opinion. Not of the role of an evangelist, but I don't hate the idea of what you're expressing if we called that missions. Right. I don't hate the idea because I don't
think there's a biblical framework.
There's not.
So I think let's call it whatever we want.
Lack of a better term, because I think one of the things that people have done based on the question that was asked is we assume missionary means I'm going to some place I don't want to go or is uncomfortable, right? I'm going to
living in below, you're having to raise your support. You're living below average income level. Things are harder.
Right. Blah, blah, blah. Or you're in some other place
which might be
not comfortable, at least, right? Versus saying like, man, I'm in the surf world. I'm in the disc golf world. I'm in the golf world. I don't hate the idea of saying, man, God has put me in this environment.
Mm-hmm.
Let's rephrase that. Here's the area I'm in, and God is using me in this area that I'm in, for His glory,
Mm-hmm.
which I think a lot of times is probably going to turn into a gospel conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't, again, back to the beginning, I don't like the idea that if you say not everybody's an evangelist, then nobody talks about Jesus except for the evangelist. That's
Right.
a dumb perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I love the idea personally of a perspective of everybody who's not an evangelist, which is probably the majority of people that would listen to this, saying, where am I at in life? Like, what am I into? What work environment am I in? What hobbies am I in? Am I in the metal world? Am I in
Right.
the disc golf world or the sports? Like, where are you
Exactly.
at? And then the question is, man, how can I represent Jesus well in this culture, in this environment, in a
Right.
way that hopefully people will start asking questions,
Mm-hmm.
and I can have opportunities to talk about what
Right.
Jesus has done in my life. I love that idea.
Mhm.
And if that's what people meant growing up when they said be an evangelist, I'm down, but you said the wrong word.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you set the wrong premise,
Right.
because
Sure.
now you're going to have to define it by all these biblical
Sure.
passages about evangelists, and it's not the same context. So, like, I love the idea of whatever word, missions, whatever, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, like,
Live
be
for Christ.
someone who lives for Christ with a heart for those people to know Jesus.
Right.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean, you're talking about your personality earlier, Ryan, which doesn't mean that you're just the bubbly person who shares Jesus with everybody.
Right.
It might mean that you're just in the environment, honoring Jesus with your life. And then it's like Ryan, you're going to have some like very intense conversations with a few people.
Mhm.
If you're like me and Pierce, you're probably going to have a little less intense conversations with a whole lot of people. Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
And both of those things work. So I love
are
the
fine.
idea
Mhm.
of living like that. Do not love the idea of saying everybody should be an evangelist,
Right.
because it's an ignorant viewpoint biblically.
Well, the three of us have been friends for a long time, and when we go on elder retreat or pastor retreat, to Ruidoso, we've been doing that for 15 years, 14 years, something like that. They're like, we'll all go walk the disc golf course together or whatever, but there will be times that you guys go do something and I'm like, I'm just going to chill.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
You need some time.
even with you guys, there are times that I'm like, I need an hour, like,
Mhm.
by myself. It's my personality. And I think that so many people are there things in our personalities that are contrary to the gospel? Sure. And those things need to be conformed to Christ. I don't think you being more of an introvert is contrary to the gospel.
No,
Right.
it's not.
We have to quit trying to make everybody cookie cutter things.
Agreed.
We're not talking here about things that are contrary to the person of Christ.
Exactly.
I am an introvert. It's super weird because I will talk to the guy at La Cantera, but there will be something in my head. My head has to make a connection.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something, I don't remember what it was with him, but there was something that made the connection. I think it was just when we made eye contact, the way he said hello, I was like, there was like something that I was like, okay, I want to have a conversation with this person.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't do that with everybody I pass.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm
Right.
just not, I'm not that guy. I don't know. And so you don't have to live outside of your personality to be a person who lives for the glory of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great way to say it.
I think one of the things,
I don't think you should.
yeah,
I think,
you're not going to be as effective, I don't think.
yeah, because I think agreed. Because I think it's like you trying to be something you're not.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, a similar conversation that maybe will help people see this. A lot of people were taught growing up in church, you need to give until it hurts.
Yeah.
That was mostly our parents being taught that. And then we were kind of taught that a little bit, but like people were like, you need to give until it hurts. You need to give until it hurts. Paul says the exact opposite in 2 Corinthians. In 2 Corinthians chapter 8, he says, I'm not asking you to give so that you have lack. He goes, I'm asking you to give out of your abundance into their lack,
Right.
so that when you have lack and they have abundance, they can meet your needs.
Mhm.
So Paul specifically gives the opposite instruction. You give out of your surplus.
Mm-hmm.
You don't give until it hurts. And I think a lot of people approach evangelism the same way. I've got to evangelize until it hurts. I've got to make myself uncomfortable. I've got to, no.
I was going to say that's literally what I was taught. I was taught that in conjunction with with where Jesus says, whoever's ashamed of me and my words, I'll be ashamed before the
Oh,
Father.
gosh.
And in conjunction with Matthew 7, get away from me, I didn't know you. All of those things, there was a crazy amount of shame in regards to evangelism, like an insane amount of shame.
It's ridiculous,
like,
and I'm so sorry.
No, yeah, and it was never, hey, do you feel like you should go to missions? It was always, where are you going?
Right.
Where are you going? What are you doing? Oh, you're gonna go to college here?
Yep.
You play music? What are you talking about? There was, dude, it's because there was this expectation of like, I didn't think you were ashamed of Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, dude, no joke. Like I didn't realize how much I like the connections. I need to start writing down the connections when they come back up. But like, cause I remember thinking like, yeah, I used to feel really bad about not sharing Jesus in this way. I wonder why. And then like, as we were talking, all these verses came back, and it was exactly that. Oh, you're not uncomfortable. You're not pushing past this. Why are you still acting that way? Because your personality is linked to who you were before Christ. And now, but see, I think with everything we've talked about, like now we're seeing our personality in light of who we are in Christ. And now we're using that for the glory of Christ. So like there's the switch of the mindset of like where I was once living for me, for my glory, right? Now, once I come to know Christ, I have been crucified, and now I live in him. And so, but there's still our personality that remains. There's still our likes and our dislikes and our social tendencies and things like that. And so I think exactly what Mike has been saying this whole time, like, okay, in the midst of knowing all this to be true about us, and definitely if there's something that is directly contrary to Christ, fleeing from that.
Right, of course.
But things that are neutral or whatever, like, okay, God, how do I glorify God with this? I'm a surfer stuck in East Texas. How do I glorify God in my life? Right.
That dude needs to move.
Exactly. Yeah. He needs to go. Right.
I hope he did, man.
Yeah.
I hope he did.
And how can we glorify Christ with the resources that we have, right? With the personality we have, with the tendencies that we have, and throughout life, that's going to look different with the same heart. So like where when I was 20 and working a 5-hour shift at Hastings, going to school for 5 hours and spending the rest of the day in either a storage unit or up at Grace Temple, like sweating and playing music and practicing, and then being gone Friday and Saturday, and then coming back for making sure we can be back in time for church, playing bass on Sunday. Like that schedule looks so much different than my schedule now as a full-time pastor, as a dad, as
3 daughters,
as like all these things. Hearts are the same.
Yeah.
How do I glorify God as a student? How do I glorify God in a band? How do I glorify God as a husband? How do I glorify God as a father? So
where
like,
are you going?
Exactly. Yeah. Where am I going? I'm about to leave my whole family and move across the world, apparently. Like, and that's the thing too, which what you brought up earlier of just like starting the home. Like the amount of people that look at family as a hindrance to the gospel, as opposed to like a primary source of how we share the gospel. Like, how are you a spouse? How are you a parent? Like that is an abundance of light. Well, I don't want to confuse the language. Who we are in Christ is the light. And then one of the most evident ways that's lived out is who you are to your spouse and to your family.
I don't trust a person who says they're living for Jesus at school or the work, but aren't living for him at home.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Like, something's off.
You're blatantly ignoring the scripture, ignoring Christ, ignoring what he's called you to do in the home. And so to elevate, and it could also go to just such crappy teaching, because if I were to follow verbatim the things that I was taught, I wouldn't really care that much about my home life. I would only care about where I'm going.
Yep.
And I would, if I spent too much time with Hannah, well, shame on me. And Christ is going to be ashamed of me now.
What was the Platt book?
Radical?
So many people read that book, and I never read it, so I don't know his intent. I know a lot of people who read that book and felt like, I need to get rid of everything I have. I need to move. I need to get out of my comfort zone. I got to go somewhere else. So whatever he intended in the book, again, I don't know if he said it that blatantly or not.
Yeah.
Whatever he intended in the book, a lot of people took it as, I need to uproot my life and do something different than what I'm doing.
Right.
And I don't think that that's the biblical model. I think if it was, we'd see that in Paul's letters to the churches. But what he does is he talks to them about being steadfast. He talks to them about how to love the body. He talks about family relationships. Like he talks to them as though they're just staying there where they're at, loving Jesus in their homes and in their church.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
I remember getting to places in, is it Thessalonians, where it's like, live a quiet life and honor the Lord. Like, I remember getting that back. Well, he doesn't really mean that. Like, or there was people talking about like, about when like Peter, James, and John, even though they did travel, like they were primarily in Jerusalem, right? So I was like, okay, well, what, like they're doing a bad job at being a Christian then, because look at them, like they're not really like, sure, they've done some random trips, but they really give it up all up for Jesus. Like I remember those clashing in my mind of like, I was taught this, but look at these people in the scriptures, even like, look at Paul's doing a bad job teaching these people how to be a Christian if he's telling them to stay home and to live a quiet life.
That might be a whole separate podcast we should talk about, because I think that's an interesting point. Like Peter's uncomfortability was expressed when a guy gave him the dream about all the unclean animals being, was it Cornelius' house, or whose house was it?
Right.
That he said
he went to Cornelius' house.
So like that was uncomfortable for Peter. Can you imagine Peter traveling through the Gentile world?
Yeah.
So like,
he goes, I'm not supposed to eat with you.
So like,
but I had a vision.
This would be an interesting conversation, because the question is Peter's lack of going because of his comfortability, or you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
Like there's, anyways.
Right.
Last thought, I want to remind people of this. Paul says in Romans, I'm not ashamed of the gospel, the message of Jesus, because it is the power of salvation for all who believe, first for the Jew, then for the Gentile. The gospel is the power, you are not. The gospel is the power, you are not. So for those that are evangelists, don't rely on your own power.
Right.
For those that aren't evangelists, that just have a heart for people to know Jesus, to see the life that has been given to you, don't rely on your own power. Like, just be someone who lifts up the gospel, lifts up Jesus, and let the gospel do. The gospel's the power, you're not.
Absolutely.
So maybe that's a simpler view.
It's a good, simpler view. I love it. For all of you guys tuning in wherever you are, if you're on Spotify, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Apple Podcast, all that fun stuff, be sure to hit subscribe. Be sure to leave a review. Be sure to check out the show notes and see where you can send in questions. So this episode today was discussing a question that we were sent. So send in questions that helps us to shape conversations. It also helps us to know where you guys are and to be able to serve you better in that way, because this podcast isn't just something that we got together so that we could vent out things or whatever. Obviously, we were realizing that we were growing together, we were growing in community, we were growing in the Lord, and we were having conversations that were helpful to us, helpful to our circles around us. And so we thought, okay, well, let's utilize this resource to record a podcast to be able to bring more people in those conversations. And so that means you guys have a voice too. So ask the questions, reach out to us, be a part of the conversation. If it's a conversation if it's a question that branches off of today's topic, or if it's something that you just thought of as we were going along, let's talk about it. Let's work through it. So shoot us a message. You can find that down in the show notes below. At simplerpod on Facebook and Instagram are going to be the easiest ways to find us. You can find all of our personal stuff tagged down below, as well as things like Eagle's Wings, like Simpler Bible, like the 456 Church, all of these ministries that we're a part of, and the resources that come with that, or the updates that come along with that. Follow along on social media, subscribe where you can, all that fun stuff. Huge shout out to Stephen here at the Garden Audio, as always. And hey, keep Christ as core. What could be simpler than that? We'll catch y'all next week. Bye.